So does anyone have some questions?
Um, so we have the DBVN contract, right? So how, and then we have the DBVN, the multi-sig code. So what things are added, on top of the multi-sig code to create a full stack DBVN, and what is solely the multi-sig code?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I think you're a bit too far away from the microphone. But since you're talking about democracies in DBVN, well, people could implement or not implement it. It is up to the choice. So with a DBVN, you could probably make a permission system which allow new citizens to vote. And added citizens will, for instance, get a simple share of tokens, which will then allow them to debate on proposal or whatever. But you can also make other systems which are not democratical if you prefer. In fact, this made possible by the two components, which are permissions and extensibility. I didn't know if I answered correctly or question of.
Well, actually, the question was, so you have the DBVN contract, you have certain functionalities. So, for instance, so now we have used a lot of code from Aragon, for instance, but we have also added you have added some functionalities to that code, like the ability to create and manage a constitution, the ability to choose a code of law, etc. And then we have a separate contract that is the DBVN. So my question was basically how, if you look at the DBVN contract and the DBVN signature contract, what is the difference? Like, what are the added functionality of the DBVN versus solely the DBVN multi-sig contract?
Yeah, so the Aragon contracts are implementing most ideas such as extensibility and upgradability. We have another contract which is being redesigned since we decided to move away from the whole code base. And that new contract could be more fine-tuned for specific needs. And we also add an old contract, really the roots of the new ones.
Hey, Elliot.
Yeah.
In your presentation, you mentioned security has to be kind of fundamentally important. It sounds like a complex system with a large attack surface because there are so many components to this system. And actually, the Ethereum blockchain is only one component system. Has there been any thought put into making a threat model for the weaknesses in the system? Blockchain is only one component of the BitNation system.
Yeah. So at first, I want to make a workable implementation that basically the threat model will be as following, which is any address can send anything to any smart contract. It means we must not trust the user of a given nation. We must not trust the user of a smart contract in any way. It means when smart contract gets something, it must double check it, and it must be sure that the data he received are the right data. But it also needs to be sure that who is talking to the smart contract is the right guy, which is enforced by the address. So the only thing we will trust is our core infrastructure, which are the contract we developed, and the source address. So we'll trust the Ethereum node not to lie us about the source address. And we can trust it because thanks to the implementation of the blockchain, we can trust that specific data, which is the address of the upcoming user. But otherwise, the data received must not be trusted. And in case of a security flaw, we can still have a way to emergency stop a smart contract or just to upgrade it later, just in case.
Okay, yeah, what about systems that aren't on the blockchain? I think correctly that BitNation has also a lot of stuff done off-chain.
Who what? On-chain?
Off-chain.
Well, maybe I can help that in the context of it. I'm just saying. So I think what he's addressing is the fact that the backend, Pantalasa, is a communication protocol built on IPFS, etc., and not a blockchain backend. That is what you want to address, right?
Yeah, so I suggested to put the Ethereum blockchain on IPFS to allow the whole BitNation backend to interact with the Ethereum blockchain. So to merge the best features of both worlds to the communication network interacting with the blockchain. It means that by putting the chain on IPFS or whatever distributed network, we can have the backend read the blockchain and get data from that blockchain without getting out of that communication network. And then we need a way to update the blockchain to send transactions. And that's why we'll be provided by what we could call gateways. So basically broadcasting a transaction in the communication network. And then specific nodes could fetch that transaction and send it on the blockchain in a decentralized manner. Since the transaction you are trying to send with your key, and you are providing the gas to execute it in that transaction. It means that, in a way, it would work the same way that an offline storage wallet. So basically, you send some data to your wallet, and it gives you a pre-signed transaction. You just have to broadcast. So same use case. You broadcast a pre-signed transaction. A gateway will take it and send it to the Ethereum network.
Yeah, that answers the question. I just don't know exactly the off-chain side of things on the on-chain, so I can't order it.
Okay, so
But that's helpful.
Okay, so maybe I can try to explain. So making contracts is a specific function, right? then in order to make it complex, we have a conversation about it.
Yep.
And that conversation, you want it to be private. You know, you don't want it on the chain. And that is why the most important, the backend content is built off chain, because it's a conversation.
And it's still being
Right.
negotiated.
Exactly.
Still
Yeah. Exactly. You know, it's compared kind of to on the record versus off the record. Right? So some things make an agreement on the record permanently, object. But you know, in the face of talking with someone else to come to a common understanding, you want to be able to conduct that conversation privately. Or
Yeah.
publicly, if you like, that's a personal difference. But, so basically the conversation component, to make it, it is possible to make a communication system on chain, but it's
It's unnecessary.
it's expensive and inefficient, and you include your digital privacy.
Yeah, so you're saying you're raising the point that we should not have too much of our infrastructure on chain. Did I catch or?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't proposing that, but it makes sense to me that you don't need it all on chain.
Yeah. You need a contract on chain.
Right.
That's it.
So you need the contracts on chain. So in many ways, it has the same threat model as Ethereum, well, as Aragon. You know, depending on how you implement it. But I guess also in terms of actually implementing this with a group of people, then there's
Well, we're
associated.
using some of Aragon's code for the VPN.
Yeah.
But I would say it's very different from Aragon in the sense that Aragon is focused on the DO version, which is awesome. We have a DVM implementation which can be used to create sort of that are core implementation with our core feature. It's a jurisdiction, peer-to-peer agreements, and arbitration market.
So actually,
It's quite, it's a very different service proposition from Aragon, and also very different both backend and front.
Right.
But
Elliot,
obviously, there are synergies between both projects, and we have been talking about
Elliot, it might be good if you described some of the why Anthalassa is very secure, both through design, through its design, but also through the encryption technology to protect people's conversations before they turn into contracts.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The sound was a bit crackling.
Elliot, it's James. I just wondered if you might want to describe why Anthalassa, why the communications network is secure, both in terms of encryption, but also in terms of its decentralized design.
You are saying I want to destroy identities. Yeah, I'm afraid I understanding what you are saying.
Describe, not destroy.
Describe.
Oh yeah.
Right. No, just if you could explain why Anthalassa, as a delay-tolerant mesh network, is secure and through the encryption technology that's built into it.
Yeah. So.
How
it
secure
is-
it is.
Yeah. Okay. So. We have a mesh network, which is Pentalassa. In a way, Pentalassa is a network of nodes operating together, share data together, in a way similar to IPFS. In fact, in the same way that IPFS. But nodes need a way to communicate securely. And in order to do that, while implementing brand new algorithms to do that, when I am saying brand new algorithms, I mean a new architecture. But these algorithms are cryptographic algorithms which has been proven secure first, because we cannot afford to use unproven algorithms. Communicate together. Methods are using a quantum safe protocol. So that quantum safe protocol is very simple. Nowadays we use an SSL-like system in most of our communications by HTTPS, or even mesh networks are using a kind of SSL technology by getting a public key and then encrypting data with that public key and then sending it or signing things. But what I propose is a quantum safe SSL-like functionality. It means that you have a public key and you get it, but you encrypt data with a quantum safe algorithm and you send it. If you need to sign it, you sign it with a quantum safe algorithm. If you need to hash it, there's no quantum safe algorithm. There's no notion of quantum safe hashing algorithms. The quantum computer will just break it faster. So you just choose an EV hash function for a quantum computer. And the main idea of having quantum safe algorithms is that most companies are researching quantum computers. Google is researching quantum computers. The United States of America are researching quantum computing. China is researching quantum computing. And I could continue for hours at least. And what I want, when a quantum computer will get out, that's something like the D-Wave computer, which is incredible. It is a first implementation of a maybe quantum computer. But when that general function quantum computer will get out, computer could break our whole cryptographic algorithm suite. It means that RSA or LT curves are vulnerable to quantum attacks. It means that if someone computer gets your public key, it could retrieve you, which is a big flaw, which means that you could provide the private key of a blockchain, even if there are protections, which I can develop on if you guys want. But it means that if someone has your PGP public key, it can get your private key. But it can get it in a way that that guy, his search get it in a reasonable amount of time. It probably won't get it in seconds or minutes, but that guy will get it. While to break a public key and get the private key, it is impossible. You will need more time than the universe took to become what it became. But with a quantum computer, all those nations are KO. All those nations become nothing. They become nothing because computer is way faster, and quantum computing has some special features. It means that, well, you could retrieve any private key with a quantum computer. But you could also potentially break symmetrical encryption chains. You could should break them. But here, the protection could be also to just use a bigger key. So instead of using AS 128, you would use AS 256. With Beacon, in fact, you're using one public key one time to receive beacons. Well, normally you should do that. Well, some people don't, but normally you should do that, and softwares and wallets are enforcing these strategies. And that is making Bitcoin potentially quantum safe. It is potentially quantum safe via hashing algorithms and asking the user not to be stupid and use the same public key twice. I know softwares enforcing that, but as the most error-prone components I've seen in the world, that give humans the responsibility of its own security, because it would be game over. A human is manipulable. It has opinions, it has ways of thinking. Well, it is ways less. Yeah, it is more error-prone than anything else. Several blockchains which are trying to use quantum-safe algorithms in a way that even if you have a dumb user, that dumb user won't be exposed to potential attack by the future quantum computer. Google is trying to integrate quantum-safe algorithms in SSL certificates, even if it isn't broadcasted yet. But just to say that the quantum market is starting, but we still lack quantum-safe networks on the world.
Thanks, Elliot. I guess my question is a little broader in the sense, like you mentioned, humans are the least reliable kind of security element. But when we're talking about nations, fundamentally talking about human organization and the technology that can underpin that. And I guess the way I meant it, I mean, it incorporates threats to the blockchain and quantum attacks and stuff, but like if you're going to implement a nation, for example, you're probably going to be implementing it in a place where there is a higher power with executive power or something like, I don't know, I feel it would be useful to have like a holistic threat model drawn out so that you can make like appropriate design and security choices all the way from the design of the protocol through to how people would actually implement it. But I don't know if that already exists or if it's not part of the scope.
It exists at the conversational level. We are talking about everyday, about everything from government attacks to attacks, etc. But I think you bring out an extraordinarily good point that we actually need to systematize the threat image. And actually, we just had a talk about that earlier with Joffrey, about not just about attacks, but also about unintended consequences. Like for instance, Joffrey mentioned earlier, you know, if we're going to start making contracts for everything, are people going to, you know, make a contract if they're going to meet up for coffee? Is that like a contract procedure and then a dispute resolution if someone is 5 minutes late for coffee, you know? That would be quite dystopian as an unintended consequence of what we're building. So I think, you know, it's great that you raise this question, and I think we need to think very hard about those problems right now at the design level to mitigate it. We cannot remove all threats, that will never happen, but we can, if we can think seriously and map out accurately all different threat scenarios, we can attempt to mitigate it and be able to, build a system that we think is long-term sustainable and that can be upgraded rather than having to ditch everything and rebuild it from scratch. So I think, we were talking about that just earlier, and we said tomorrow we'll actually do an exercise where we sit and map out both threats and unintended consequences, both positive and negative unintended consequences of what we're building.
That sounds really sensible, because you also mentioned in your 6 points for what a nation requires, that the last one's upgradability, but as Suzanne's saying, like the flip side of that is stability. People don't want their nation's code to changing all the time, and, so and making changes is hard, right?
No, I think you misunderstood me. So I'm not saying change is bad or there's a trade-off between change and stability. If you look at most software in the world, let's take Facebook, right? Facebook gets upgraded constantly, and it doesn't, there's no trade-off there. But what I meant is that we have to think about these problems in the same way we think about quantum threats, for instance. At the design level, we have to think about unintended behavioral consequences, for instance, at the design level, so that we build it with that in mind from start. So we don't have to ditch the entire system and start from scratch, because there is some massive flaw we overlook. So I don't think there is no trade-off between making a system upgradable, but there is a trade-off making the wrong design decisions at the ground level. I think it's kind of when you build a house, right? That you want your concrete, your concrete ground foundation to be right, and it's fine. Then you will upgrade it, you will renovate it every year. That's fine. Let's have some Italian marble here. Let's have another down here. That's all good. But you want your concrete to be right.
I agree. I do wonder about whether there is maybe some trade-off, like particularly which is people wanting some sustainable mechanism of coordinating their behavior. I can't see, if you took it on a spectrum, if you had changes every day, then people couldn't rely on a set of rules. But if you have no ability to change, that would obviously mean you've got a system quite similar to the problems we have with the legal system now, that it kind of gets codified too strongly. The question.
Well, I think it's a good question. I mean, there are some, I think now in the beginning, it's fine to upgrade a lot, because people know that it's alpha, very early, pre-alpha stage, in fact. And people who use our software at this stage are all crypto enthusiasts who use it because they are passionate either about technology or the philosophy, whatever, But once it goes to the mass market, obviously constant upgrades are super annoying. So then we have to face it, kind of like iPhones, we're gonna do, a new release, and then they make a big thing about it, and then they do it every year or so, and they accumulate all these changes and then release it in one big go. So I think that's just kind of normal.
I think there are two things here as well. One is the technology. So there may be an upgradability in terms of technology, because the nation is essentially a contract between citizens and an entity which is formed on a blockchain. Now, that blockchain technology may improve, so there may be a technological reason to up-to-date the contract, which doesn't affect the content of the nation, if you like, its constitution, its code of law.
So that's like a protocol change.
It's a protocol. It's to make sure it continues to function. Because as technology evolves, it improves. But then, I think the one you're getting at is that certain set of rules, certain codes of law, you don't want those rules to be changing, or at least you want to be consulted against change. And that is on the decision-making mechanism that nation has chosen. So if that nation has chosen, let's say, a liquid democracy model, then it can consult everybody. If it's chosen a holocratic model, then probably those changes will take place within different holons within the nation. So it depends on what you've signed up for, on whatever the decision-making mechanism is. But it is likely that people will not be citizens of just one nation. Because there'll be an ecosystem, you might be part of a hip-hop nation because you love hip-hop, and you might be part of, Earth democracy because you're interested in being part of a different democracy which is focused on sustainability. And you might also be part of the nation of this and that, you live in the street and you're part of a group of people who operate as a community and look after their trash collection and so on. So your multiple nations, you may have chosen those nations for different reasons. Each one may have a different decision making. So you might decide, well, that decision, let's say it's a democratic system, the majority of citizens chose to change it in a way that I don't like, because I didn't want it to go in that direction. So the key, and the beauty, and the wonder being a member of a voluntary nation is you can say, thank you, but goodbye, and I'll join another nation, or even better, I'm going to set up a nation that I want, because the way it's going isn't the way that I want it. And those of you who want to join me, small minds come from that nation. So I think the key there is understanding the decision making you're signing up for. And because we're creating infrastructure, we are dictating what that decision making mechanism is.
Even for like because we have opt-in laws and a nation that doesn't have the opt-in laws, and yes, actually just agree that
Yes. So you might sign up for somebody like that and say, well, there are no laws, but anyone can choose their own laws for particular agreements. Or you might have another one that says, right, this is Sharia.
Oh, okay. So anyone who wants to speak has to speak like right here. Because no one can hear this. Yeah. Okay, so I just want, Florian, would you please mind coming here for a bit? So we had this conversation the other night about upgradability.
Yeah.
Like, how can you just summarize what we talked about? Because I think that's a really key point you made. Yeah, exactly. No,
All the algorithms.
the algorithm, exactly. How to choose algorithm in relation to upgradability.
Well, the
The
main
quantum
problem.
safe algorithm.
Yeah, the problem is that when we upgrade like algorithms, and then like most of the time the private keys will also change. And I haven't made like a fixed concept now, but there we need like a way to like when you change like the keys, your signature will change, and then you're basically like it's considered as an hacking attempt because the private key changed, so your identity changed, of course. And but this relates to identity, like changing the private and public keys.
Exactly. So I think the point you made is that so if we use, for instance, an untested protocol, then and there is an attack, we would have to change. I mean, everyone will have to change their public key instantly.
Yeah.
And it would be kind of impossible for us to communicate that change efficiently to so many people, right? Okay, if you are like doing a software upgrade in 6 months, and then you have 6 months to send out emails and whatever, tell everyone there's a big update coming, make sure your keys are safe or what have you. But if there is an attack and you have to change it overnight, then suddenly you have a big problem.
Yes,
right?
And exactly because like, for example, but that's what I mean with like identity upgrades, because like the private key is an identity, and basically like changing an algorithm is done like in 10 minutes. You just need to change like 2 methods because it's like maybe like verify and encrypt and so on. You can change it like a 10 minutes algorithm, or yeah, like pretty fast. But like as I said, when you privately change someone and you have like a new one, I wouldn't trust you because hey, you privately changed. So you basically need like a real personal life that would like kind of like verify. So it's basically my mother, and I show her like my new. I know I don't show her my new private key, but I show her my like new public key, and she sees okay, that's Florence's new signature, so she can like verify that. And I call that like persons of trust. But and there's actually like Elliot sent me. I told you about this identity stuff. Maybe?
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a project which already like focus on like what happens if you change like a private key, like how to handle that. Because we also might need to attempt that an iPhone gets stolen or something like that, and it's basically exactly the same thing as when we have to change private keys. It's just because like for encryption we also use private keys, and yeah, it's just a question. You could also make like kind of backup device, which is like, well, a backup like identity, and then you could verify like with a second identity, which is like somewhere in the safe maybe, that you change the other identity. So you can make like that second account like the person of trust, I call it like that. But it's like really early stage. I don't know if that is really like if that makes like sense. I would have to check that.
Yeah, I mean the problem, I think one of the biggest problem in the crypto space overall right now is the trade-off between security and user friendliness.
Yes, exactly. That's also like with the entire decentralization stuff. Because, for example, I had this presentation and I also mentioned the WebRTC, and you basically need like a signaling service. You can do it like via email. It doesn't matter. You can do it like in many ways. But you can even make it like without like email. You would have to exchange your like IP addresses like manually. So you would have to type like 163.
Yeah, it's cool for people like us, but
yeah,
but how do you get mass market adoption?
Yeah, exactly. But it's exactly what you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's
so for instance, like something as simple as like password recovery. You know, who doesn't use password recovery? I use it all the time.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But that requires a large degree of centralization and non-security, right? So,
yeah, that's why I had like this idea of like making a smart contract with a person of trust, like my mother, for example, and she could like and you would have to you would have to like make the contract on both sides. So it's not just my mom would say, okay, Florian changed his private key, and she just changed my private key. That shouldn't be possible. It needs to be like the attention needs to be from both sides. The like hacked private key. So because maybe still I maybe own it, but someone else saw it, so I can initialize the process because I already know like a private key, and then my mother can verify it. But she can of course initialize the process of or verifying that my identity changed.
Yeah, I mean there are solutions around everything. Like we're also discussing, for instance, for like account recovery, like for instance, dividing your key, you know, in like 4 different segments and give it to 4 different people. But all of those are things that are kind of, let's say, not average user friendly, you know, to put it mildly. So we need to, you know, there is never going to be a perfect solution for this. It's never going to be a system that is both 100% secure and 100% user friendly. But we just have to figure out where to make that trade-off. You know?
I had a long conversation with him, and he basically like basically have to think, make like a list of possible like attacks.
Yeah.
And then maybe choosing the list with the less possible attacks.
Exactly.
That's so like this threat model, right? Yeah, that's what you're saying.
So I think, so I think an action point that we can establish right now is to buy a huge like paper thingy, you know, and put it there, and then just brainstorm all the security risks, all the unintended consequences, behavioral consequences or technological consequences, just put it out, like the kind of the danger zone map, you know?
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah. So how about, okay, so tomorrow we have the workshops.
No, the other presentations, right? Second.
Yeah, but I meant like, yeah, after the presentations, yeah. Okay, so how about we have like a danger zone? But I would actually like everyone to be in on that. How about, okay, for those of you who want to, how about we do it on Sunday before the cruise, before the canal cruise, like Sunday afternoon, let's
Yes.
say around something like that. And then we just sit and map out all the worst nightmare scenarios we can possibly think of on a big sheet of paper. Yeah, yeah. Just like a humongous, like, you know, these things that stand on something, you know. and then you just- yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be nice to, I think, like, if you draw the system model itself, then you can like attach a list to that, you know, like this is the place in the protocol or in the implementation or something that the security threat exists. And I think I was also saying to Florian that EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, has like a good walkthrough of how to determine your threat models and what you can do about it. So that could be good.
Yeah, we should also create a list of resources, go-to resources, kind of like a best practices list to check off every time we say, okay, this is security threat. How have other organizations handled it? Have they discussed it? How have they counted it? Is there something we can learn from that and implement it?
Actually,
That's
guy
a very
on-
good
A
suggestion.
guy on the Slack said he is part of like census due diligence team or something.
Yeah, I talked with him. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's
So
brilliant.
maybe it's a good guy to talk to.
Yeah, I think that he is very narrowly focused on solidity security, solidity contract security, rather than kind of average big picture security. So he is probably better to talk about specifically about smart contract, you know, vulnerabilities. But yeah, I mean, there are many. I know people in the Electronic Frontier Foundation as well, and so we can bring in and, you know, have thing we do, you know, to give a kind of second opinion, informed opinion.
Okay. Yet, I think we're probably going to end it at this point, unless you want to add anything.
Yeah, so thanks everyone, and I think we can
I
end
can't hear it. I think he's saying something. I can't hear it.
Don't worry, Elliot, you're still live on the stream.
Okay, so let's stop the diffusion.
Elliot?
Elliot?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Elliot, we've lost the audio to the room, so the world can hear you, but the people here can't.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I think that's going to probably cause close to it. So thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon.
And see you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.